My name is Roy Reed, and I want to welcome you to another session of Ask the Pool Baron, sponsored by Memphis Pool. These are quick and timely tips that will save you time and save you money and help you with your pool operation, cost, maintenance, and otherwise. It just makes life easier for you. We thank you for joining us at this time. Today is going to be a very popular subject. It has to do with disinfection, killing germs, and things like that, and everybody always thinks of chlorine, bromine, but today we're going to talk about ozone. Ozone actually kills much quicker than chlorine or bromine. It does a very good job. It's made out of oxygen, as you can see right here, but the downside of ozone, aside from all the very good points about it, it doesn't last long. It's a very unstable molecule of oxygen. Now, the way that it, to give you a little feel for actually, the oxygen that's in the air, as everybody knows, is O2. You remember that from your grammar school, science classes, and that sort of thing. It's oxygen, lots of that. So, since it's made from it, let's take a look and see what happens. As you can see, it takes 3 molecules of oxygen to make 2 molecules of ozone. So you see 3 times 2 is 6. 6 atoms are involved. You have 6 here, 6 there. So from a chemical standpoint, you're balanced and you're in good shape. And that's the way that works. Now, after it is made, this is what begins to happen. But let's talk about the way that it's made. In nature, you go out after an electrical storm and you know how the air smells fresh and different for a little while, sort of for lack of a better word, a refreshing sort of a sweet smell. Well, that's been formed by the lightning. You have huge voltages that do that and take care of that and form it, but it doesn't last very long. So to manufacture ozone on the spot, basically, here's what's happening. I just threw this little crude sketch together. This will represent the tubing or piping that takes takes oxygen into the ozonator, and let these little wavy lines these are to represent the UV rays of the sun that really do it, but inside this box you don't have a sun, so you have bulbs that are actually emitting UV rays. You've been on elevators in various places before and said this elevator, this facility is equipped with UV radiation for sanitation purposes and this and that, so it's ultraviolet that's doing it. But what's happening inside this is the selected rays of ultraviolet radiation there are actually manufacturing ozone. So as the oxygen goes in, ozone comes out the other side, and it's fed into the system of this recirculating, the water recirculating, and usually there's some kind of a little device that creates a vacuum, and this would be a piece of tubing that hooks up and just draws air through there. So you have a continuous manufacturing, if you will, or production of ozone, although by the time it gets into the water and gets back to the pool, it's pretty well just about broken down back into oxygen. Some of it will be in the water, but the point is you don't have such a concentration that you can measure. It just doesn't last that long, but you do see the effects because, number one, you use less chlorine and you use less bromine. And if you've seen the sessions on sanitation and the chemistry, as you're adding these chemicals, they're affecting the pH, the acidity and the alkalinity of the water. They're adjusting those things, and that has to do with the effectiveness of the killing power of the chlorine itself. However, in the case of ozone, it doesn't change the pH. It is not affected by the pH. It doesn't care what the pH is. It just goes and does its thing irregardless as it's being pulled through the device. And this represents this represents more than anything a residential type ozonator. There are some very huge large ones where they make copious amounts of ozone. It has to do with pulling liquid oxygen in a gaseous form through a system of high voltage that does that, corona discharge, but this is not what this is. This is what you have on your residential. This is basically what's happening. And so actually it's helping the chlorine, but there are other benefits that go along with it as well. As I said, you don't have to worry about it affecting the pH. You don't have to worry about overfeeding too much ozone because it just doesn't build up. So this is why the ozonator is running all the time to help with the sanitation process in the water. Now, here's what's going on. So you understand now, it's very simple, that ozone is O3. Now here's what's happening. This is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, and where the effectiveness is shown, is the three, as you saw earlier, for every 3 molecules of oxygen, there are 2 molecules of ozone that are produced. But as we said, it's very unstable, so it's breaking back down into, as it's going through, it breaks back down into oxygen. But as it does this, it produces what's known as free radicals. And free radicals are, for lack of a better word, you can just say they're molecular terrorists, is what they boil down to. And this is why even in the human body, all living systems have free radicals being formed through diet and this sort of thing. And that's why you had your wife or your mother or sister, somebody saying, eat the berries, they have antioxidants in them, because you have to have a certain number of antioxidants from your diet, fruits and things like that, to offset the free radicals that you're making, so that you have a healthy skin and just persona altogether. If you've looked at people that are homeless a lot of time and seen them where they don't have a regular diet, a good diet, you just sometimes you look and see how underweight they may be, but the more important thing is a lot of their run-down condition is more from free radicals build up in the body, where it's sort of battling the chemistry, if you will. And that's pretty much it. It's a very straightforward, simple story. It's not any long, complicated thing. And one of the things that takes place in there, let me show you something else here. Within a pool, and particularly in spas, you have the buildup inside of the plumbing and surfaces. It's called biofilm. And this is formed by organisms that will attach themselves to the surface, the inner surface of the plumbing and the spa and whatnot. And I don't want to get into all the chemistry and physiological processes to do this, but if almost you can figure it makes this film, or if you think of it like a slime. Now you can't put your finger in there and feel it unless it's an extremely advanced thing, but nevertheless it is there, but you can't do it. But you remember, you're talking about microorganisms that are just, you have to do a huge magnification to get even an indication of their size and look at them. But they're formed in that biofilm, and that is sort of a shield to keep the oxygen, that keeps the chlorine from affecting them. Whereas in the case of ozone, it'll kill organisms that chlorine won't kill, and there are some, but you have all this buildup of stuff inside the systems, from the skin, body oil, sunscreen, cosmetics, and just general body secretions that are out there and part of this biofilm that's in it. But you think of ozone really works to keep this biofilm down. And I've used the expression lots of times. I've always liked to think of comparing the power of ozone is almost like comparing a flamethrower to a kitchen match, that the ozone is so much stronger and so much more effective than chlorine. It's just not. Now chlorine, I don't want to make you get the idea that I'm trying to downplay chlorine. We have to have it. It's good. It works. It's there. But you can always build up a residual and measure what you have. But you can't do that with ozone. And also, chlorine you're measuring and keeping the pH where it needs to be. But ozone, as I said, doesn't care. It's a very good complementary or supplementary substance to go along with it. They really complement one another. They work well together. If you don't have an ozonator, you may want to try it. They're not expensive for what you get from them. They're very, very cost effective, and I would welcome you to try that. And by the way, thank you for watching the little tips from the Pool Baron from time to time. You can always pick us up on the YouTube, Memphis Pool's YouTube channel and the Facebook page. We're there. And when you're doing business with Memphis Pool, you're doing business with a local company that's locally owned, locally supported, and locally staffed and employees. There are no out-of-town investors at all. You're investing in your community, and this is a very long-standing company. So on behalf of Memphis Pool, Thank you for joining us. Go and see take a look on the, as I said, the YouTube channel and the Facebook page. And if you have questions, ask the Pool Baron and we'll come back with some kind of an answer. Thank you.